Hello, beautiful people. Today, we are going to talk about advanced state management and having a good architecture for your Flutter projects. But way before we get into the solution, we must understand the problem. And what's the problem? If we take a look at the way the Flutter apps usually are structured, we have a tree-like structure where we have one widget, which is the parent widget, and then children of that particular widget. Passing data from the parent to the children is the easy process, but when we have a big widget tree, it's hectic to do that because if we want to reach the 10th child of the parents, we must have to uh, pass the data through all of the children to reach the last one. And if you want to edit data on the parent from the child, it's a headache as well. That's why having a good architecture for your Flutter projects and having a good manner of managing your states comes in handy, and it's a major advantage, mainly when you want to add more features to the app in the long run. My name is Santos Enoque. Welcome to the channel. Hello, beautiful people. Here we have our taxi app, or our Uber clone is basically the same thing. And if you have been following the tutorials or this tutorial, you know that we didn't follow any architecture or structure for this particular project. If you haven't followed the project, that's not a big problem, because here you can have some insights on how can you structure and provide a good architecture to your project. Here I chose to go with the provider because that's what I use most of the time, and I did try using the block and other patterns, but I think provider is easier to understand and to use in general. So what are we going to do in this particular video is we have this piece of code here on screens for our home, which is a mess. We have UI and the business logic of the app all inside of the same file, and this is not something we want to have on our production app, and I only did like that to make the whole process easier to understand for you guys. Now I'm going to show you guys how can we convert this app without any specific structure into a good structured Flutter app. From the UI perspective, nothing is going to change. We are going to have exactly the same thing we have here, but let me just make sure it still works because it has been a while. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, it works. Perfect. So let's start working with the structure of the app and try to make this video as quick and as easy as possible. And if you've been following my videos, you can see that now I'm using VS Code, not Android Studio, and I've been practicing with this and I like it, so I use it. One of the first thing we're going to do is we are going to go to our pub spec file, and inside our pub spec file just make sure we have provider. And why do I use we do have provider here. Perfect. I was saying, why do I chose to go with Visual Studio Code? Because we have a lot of good extensions for Flutter development. If you need, I can create a video on that, but it's awesome. Okay, with that being said, let us create a new folder, and you can call it anything. I'm just going to call this states. So our different states, one second, okay, our different states are going to be inside of this particular folder. Perfect. Let's create a file in here, and I'm going to call this file appstate.dart. Perfect. Now we just have to import our Flutter material here, and we have to import our Flutter widgets as well, because we want to make use of the provider architecture, And I'm assuming you already saw a couple videos about provider and you have a basic knowledge or idea on how this thing works. And I created a couple of videos about that. You can check them in my channel if you have no idea about providers whatsoever. Okay, so we have here our app state is going to be called app state. We are going to be verifying the state of the app when the user clicks to check a destination and all. That's what I'm going to do. And why did I decide to create this video? Because we do have a lot of videos about provider architecture, but they are very simplistic, meaning they don't go very deep. So you can understand the concept, but not knowing really how to use that into a real production app. Okay, perfect. Now let's break this piece by piece. What you want to do is from the jump, from the very beginning, you want to start by structuring your app correctly. But since we didn't do that, we are going to go that way, no problem. The very first thing we're going to do is we're trying to separate the business logic from the UI. Okay, so everything related to the logic of the app, we're going to remove from the screens, from the UI. Starting by the get location, remove that from here, and eventually we may need to remove that here. So we're going to remove the get location. We're going to place it here. We're going to have a couple errors. It's an you need to import the library, and to do this shortcut you just have to use command dot or control dot, and it's going to give you the options. The second thing is we're going to remove this set state because we don't use set state here. And now what's the other problem that we have? Here we don't have, let me import this as well. Done. We need what? The initial position and this. Go back to the home. At the very top we need to get our initial position, location controller, destination controller. We're going to get a lot of errors because of this, but it's fine. We're going to fix them all. Okay, we have this here, which is good. Okay, perfect. Now from this point, what do we want to do is create a constructor for our app state, and this constructor will just call our get location from the very beginning. Okay, and the second thing we want to do is we want to create a getter called initial position, and it's going to get the value of this, of our initial position. Okay, so far so good. And now what are we going to do here is we may need to okay, let's go to the main file and I'll show you guys something we have to do to be able to access our the variables and the methods we set inside of a provider class. We have to do something here. So instead of returning a material my app, what we're going to do is before this, at the very root of our project, we want to return a MultiProvider. Okay, this is what we want. Okay, So MultiProvider is going to take a list of providers and it's going to take a child, and that's where we're going to provide my app as the child of this. Now, why are we using a multi-provider, not a change notifier provider? The point is, if you have a big app, and we do have, this is a major app, we are going to use multiple providers. Maybe one provider will just check the state of the app, one provider will just check the authentication status, one provider is going to check. We can have providers to make sure the business logic of different features and components of the app are running correctly, and here is where we can access those providers. That's why you use a multi-provider. Now, to make use of that, we're going to use a change notifier value, and as the value here, we must provide our provider, which is app state. Okay, so the list of different providers we're going to use, we are going to provide here a change notifier provider value, and for the value we're going to provide the name of the provider, which is the app state on our case. Okay, let's go back to home, and I can let me remove this. Probably I'm going to get more errors because of that, but it's okay, it's fine. It's fine. We have our last position, and let's create another getter for our last position. Oops. Okay, perfect. And now we still have to fix couple things. Now, how do we go about using our provider? We have to use that inside of our inside of our build method, because the provider makes use of the context, and that's the main disadvantage of the provider, meaning the values of variables and methods inside of our provider, we cannot access them from here, for example, outside of our build method, but we need to be inside of our build method to make use of the context. But we are going to have a look into another tools for dependency injection and another ways we can go around doing that in next videos. Don't worry about that. What we have to do here is just define final, and I'm going to call that app state, which is a variable, but from here we're going to give a provider of context, okay, app state. What am I doing? Done. And here we have our provider, and what are we going to do here is basically saying, as long as our app state dot initial position, and we can make use of this from the provider, is equal to null, this is going to happen. And for the target of our camera, again, we're going to use our app state dot initial position. That's good for now. Here we can use our app state dot location controller, and the big advantage of this is that we can access those values from any widget inside of our app. It doesn't matter how far it is from the root, it doesn't matter, we can just access them just like that. and we can modify these values from any widget inside of the app as well. Now let me comment on these methods because we want to make sure that our provider is working correctly to avoid working too much and not having nothing done. So where we have errors, okay, we're commenting these lines out because we want to test if our provider is working correctly, and afterwards we'll come back to this. Okay. Okay, let us do a small run and test if things are working the way they're supposed to. But to make sure everything will write correctly, I'll just stop the app and run it from scratch, and hopefully we have everything going as right as expected. Okay, what do we have here? Still processing. Hopefully it doesn't take long. At the beginning, this seems like an headache to have all of these things done like that, like first having this structured, but it's a major advantage even from the development point of view. Even if you want to follow a career as a Flutter developer, it's a very good advantage if you have a solid architecture for your Flutter projects. That's a major, and mainly if you want to work on teams as well with other developers, because if you both follow a certain architecture, it's easy for you guys to add and remove features and things like that. Okay, let's pray. Let's pray. Okay, this is not going to work. Do you guys know why? Because there are a couple things I must do. I forgot to do. For example, here on our get location, from that point we need to do this simple thing. Notify listeners. It's a simple thing. Let me try to run the app, and boom, just like that, is working. So instead of using initial state and set state, we are making use of the provider. Let's just complete this with the other methods we have here inside of our code to make sure we all follow a very good structure. Okay, let's start with the create route. I'll take this and I'll go to app state. I can add couple comments here just to get user's location. To create a route. Okay, there's another thing we must do here, which is take these two guys out of the UI and paste them here. We are going to have a couple issues here, but it's fine. It's all good. Remove this. Remove this. Go back to our home page where we have a lot of errors, but we're not afraid of that. So what are we doing basically is we are cleaning our code app we are cleaning our code up, right? Add a marker on the app, on the map. We are on this process of cleaning the code. Make sure it looks good, and consequently it's going to work good. Convert list of doubles to okay. And by the way, the color of the comments is another extension of VS Code. And this is going to be a private. Create a list. This is what's happening here. And since that method is the same as this one, this is going to be a private as well. Deploy the code poly, and this is our methods with the algorithm to decode our polylines. And what has to be done here is okay, paste this here, make this a private, going up here, and make this a private as well. So basically this is what's happening here. Everything that's not related to the UI, it's related to the logic of the app, is being sent to a specific file. When the time comes we have errors or we need to add features or troubleshoot this, we know, send requests. We know that we can just go to that particular file and access everything. Okay. Remove this as well. And we are going way up here, paste this stuff here. And of course we need to create a getter for this. So we have Google Maps services, so we're going to have Google Maps services. Oops. Get. We have Google Map services here as well. So we don't have any errors here. Good. Okay. Here we can just do our app state dot send request. This is how that's going to work. On camera move, another method that we need to remove from here and put it here. It's a bit tedious work, but it's going to be worth it. Camera move. We are going to remove this set state because we don't need that, and probably we need you to be public because we may need to access this from the outside world. Okay. I think that here everything's done. On create, remove this from here. and comment here on create. We don't need to use set state. Now the only thing we need here is our map controller, and we do nothing on our initial state, so we don't need to have this. Okay, okay. Paste that here, make it private, and that's the way we work. That's the workflow. And basically make this private as well. And what's missing here is to create a getter for this particular variable for the map controller, so that we can access it from outside this. And what's the name of that? Google Map Controller. Okay, Google Map Controller is what we want. We're going to call it Map Controller. It's a getter, so create a get here, get, and this is what we get in our map controller. Perfect. And of course we're going to create a set of marker get. We're going to have our markers here, and they're going to be equal to these guys. And again we need our polylines. I'm going to call them polylines. Which is a get their polylines, and then here from here we're just returning these guys. Okay. Okay. Perfect. What's missing here? I'm not sure, but at least on this it's everything done. Let me format the document, and it's well done and formatted, then save that. Okay, let me go back to this guy. First remove this because we're not using them. Command Shift F. Oh. I'm looking for the shortcut to format this. Alt Shift F. Okay, perfect. Okay. And now what we have to do is basically just write app state dot on created app state dot markers app state dot on camera move app state dot polylines. Okay. And now what we have to do is don't forget to do this. Notify listeners. For every single change we do, afterwards we want to make sure the listeners will get the changes, right? Don't need to do it for here. Here there's a lot going on, so probably we may need this. Here we may need this as well, and here. So what's left? The only thing left is to rerun our app, and hopefully we did the structure correctly. No, we didn't. We didn't. Here it wasn't supposed to be like that. Yeah. No problem. That's not a big deal. Let's go back to home. Here is the destination controller what we are after. Let's just do this. Okay. Write the random destination. Go. And that's it. Okay, it took a while to do all of this process, but if you can see, guys, now our app is properly structured. We took our mess and we totally organized that, and now it's perfectly structured, and this is how you want to go about building your apps. And in the near future we're going to add more to this, but I wanted to show you how to really use the power of provider, and we still have a lot of things to cover, but in a production app, not just adding or incrementing and decrementing values as we have done the example. Okay, I hope you did like. If you did enjoy the video, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like. We have a lot of good content coming on the channel. Yeah, I think that's all. Make sure you any doubts or anything you have, just leave that on the comment section below, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.